Hello everyone, and welcome back to Classic Mode. I remembered the name this time. Where we play old games, or like I say, games that aren't like released recently.
Why do you say welcome back? You're assuming that people are coming back to the show. But that's very...
We literally know they are, Kyle.
Assuming we want the show to grow in popularity, most people that come to it aren't going to be coming back. They're going to be... they're probably going to be seeing it for the first time.
Alright, fine, Mr. Pedant.
I'm just saying.
If you've listened to an episode before, welcome back. If it's the first time, hello.
Sounds like a Kay's cooking outro.
Oh God, no. Oh, that's it, we've got to restart. Do over, I'm done with this. God damn it, Kyle, you completely threw my train of thought. Yes, classic mode, playing old games, or maybe new games at some point, but games that we should have played, or replaying games. Anyway, this week, episode 5, we played Dishonored, which was released in... When was Dishonored released? I always forget.
10 or 11?
2013? Something like that.
Whew, 2012? That's like 9 years ago. God damn. So I suppose, as is usual, we'll go around the group and get a broad outline of what were your thoughts on the game. But start with what platform you played it on, and like I suppose your technical experience with the game, as in if you played it on a different platform, how was it, etc. Things like that. I think they're kind of important to consider. Maybe not with the newer games, but especially with some of the older ones that we might play on emulators or on older hardware. That's a pretty good habit to get into.
Yes.
Nico.
Yes. First off, I played the game on PC, just a Steam release. There wasn't any random disc copy I found. And it went well. I didn't have any issues, personally. General thoughts. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the game. I think I always go into a stealth game wanting to really like it, and then I'm just like, it just didn't really feel like my kind of game. But this one was... It definitely took the stealth genre and just made it really fun, like in all aspects. So, yeah.
Had you played it before this time?
I have not played it.
That was a good question.
I've never played it.
I didn't know that.
Anything else you want to add, or is that it for now?
For now, yeah. I'll keep it at that.
Okay. Keenan.
Hi. What's up?
I mean, I can ask you to recount your experience with the game as well, if you want me to. But I think you know how this works by now.
Okay, fine. I played on the Steam version as well. I thought the port was really good, actually. It felt very smooth. I've played the game before on PS3 back when it came out. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, one thing that I really like about it is that you sort of choose how you want to play it, right? And so the interesting thing is it pushes you in one direction, so that's the only way I've played it. But both times after beating it, I've wanted to go back and do it as like an action game. So maybe I'll have to do that this time.
Yeah, I think just quickly that kind of builds the point of Nico made us that it's not exactly a typical stealth game.
Yeah.
Because there are other options. It's not like Splinter Cell, like, oh, you saw you're seen and then you're dead because 3 guys with machine guns kill you or whatever. But yeah, we can get to that later.
Yeah.
Kyle.
Yeah, what? What do you want?
Damn it, Kyle, don't do this to me.
Alright, I played it on Steam. I'd never played Dishonored before, but I'd always heard about it and how literally everyone loves this game. I'd never heard a bad word about Dishonored, so I went into it with fairly decent expectations. Turns out, I'm the only person in the world who doesn't like it.
I feel like that about so many games, it's actually unreal.
So that's interesting. And I feel like that's going to be... I feel like everyone's going to focus on that for the rest of this episode, so... there you go.
I think it's good. It's interesting. It's interesting to kind of get down and discuss why.
Yeah.
As opposed to just calling you wrong. Which, I mean, you are, but it's good to explore more into that.
I'd like to know why you're wrong.
Yes, yeah. I want to explore why you're wrong, so I can know how the brain of someone that is wrong works. I'm sorry, guy. I suppose that leaves me. I also played on Steam. Interestingly, and I had played the game before on Xbox 360. Interestingly, I played half of the game with keyboard and mouse, and then half the game with a controller.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had what was I doing? I was going to. That was it. For some reason in my head, I had it that I was going to play Squadrons. So I hooked up my controller to play Squadrons, but then like I was going to actually play Dishonored, and then it just kind of felt natural, so I just kept playing it with a controller. Because I basically played the game in 2 sittings, right? And yeah, it wasn't until I kind of halfway through the second one, close down, I was like, oh, that's why everything feels kind of weird.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear about that, because, I mean, that's how both of us originally experienced the game. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really remember much.
I mean, the TLDR is that the game's got more fucking auto-aim than a Call of Duty Warzone hacker, but, you know. And yeah, I enjoyed it too. I enjoyed it, remember enjoying it the first time I played it. I remember finding it... I don't remember it being as difficult when I first played it.
I do.
Which the thing is, this might be again because we played it so long ago, but there are large swathes of it that I just can't remember.
Yeah, I remember specific bits quite well, and then other bits were sort of just like, oh, this is like a new game to me.
Yeah, it's like there's a one bit at the end. Spoiler alert, by the way. Obviously, I don't feel the need to say that right at the beginning because you're watching a podcast about a review of a game. It's kind of obvious it's going to be spoilers. The final bit where you're being hunted by the assassins, and you're going through the water area.
Yeah, the flooded district.
Yeah, I have no memory of that, like at all. I was like, what? I don't remember this.
See, I remembered the flooded district being a thing, and as the game went on, I was like, wait, did I just make this up? Am I thinking of like what I wanted to happen? And then it actually happened. I was like, oh, it makes so much sense now.
I feel so validated finally.
Yeah.
I suppose it's kind of difficult. I feel like the logical place to start with this is get the general gameplay and how kind of we all felt the gameplay was. I feel like I want to start with this for once because fuck it, it's my show. I can do what I want.
It's not your show. Screw you.
Hey, I'm the one that does the intros to this thing.
I mean, true.
I do the outros too.
Only because doing intros and outros sucks, so we gave it to you.
Doesn't matter that Keenan came up with the show, did the branding,
And
Edits the
upload.
episode.
does all of our
uploads
edits,
it.
all of our audio, puts it together, uploads it, created the fucking YouTube and the Anchor and all the shit. Now it's Max's show because he does the intro, and that's the most important part of any show.
Do you think Ellen DeGeneres does all that background work on the Ellen DeGeneres show?
I mean,
But it's not called
you don't
the
know
Max
that.
Show.
That's a good name. We should take that name.
Do you know who does the editing on the Ellen DeGeneres show? No, you
No,
don't.
I have no fucking
So
clue.
it could very well be Ellen DeGeneres. You don't know.
This is going to be one of those episodes.
I'm pretty sure it's not. Anyway, Dishonored is an interesting game.
Wrong. And let me no, okay. No, go on.
Let me.
No, you go.
I think as we've probably discussed a few times before, specifically I think highlighted by Beyond Good and Evil, which was the last episode that was put out. I'm very much a gameplay-driven kind of person when it comes to games, and I love Dishonored. Kind of going off back of what Nico says, for it is a stealth game, but it doesn't feel like a stealth game because it doesn't have the traditional trappings of a stealth game. Like, you don't have to do everything stealthy. It's not like a Hitman, right? Or a Splinter Cell, where stealth is your only option. You want to try and be stealthy, and you want to try and get back into stealth as soon as you can. But if you break out of stealth because someone sees you or something messes up, you have options to resolve that conflict in a less than stealthy way, like shooting someone in the face. And I feel like there's kind of a trifecta going on, for me at least with Dishonored, of the kind of dynamic gameplay between stealth and non-stealth, the range of powers available to you as a player, and the dynamic open style of the levels. create a series of encounters that feel like they could honestly go any way. Like, you can run around completely chaos-free and, tranquilize most enemies and just sneak around and use blink to get around places. You can, knock people out and drag and put their body in a cupboard somewhere. Or you could just kind of go loud if you want to. I mean, I've not personally tried it. But I think it would be pretty viable to, like you said, Keenan, play the game as an action game, basically.
Yeah. A difficult one, but...
A difficult one, yeah. They'll definitely bump the difficulty up. Because, I mean, I never touched the pistol upgrades.
No, nor did I.
I didn't upgrade the pistol at all. And some of them seemed pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with some of the powers that are, like, really, really violent powers, but I never got them because I wasn't going that route.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, my most used powers were blink and dark vision. Like,
I remember using dark vision constantly when I first played it, and this time it was only towards the end of the game that I even used dark vision.
oh, interesting.
Like, I got it right at the beginning of the game because I knew I used it so much in the first place. But there was something about it this time that I was sort of like... I think I was just getting a lot more immersed into it this time, where I was just sort of paying attention to my surroundings more. And so I didn't really need the dark vision because I could, like, hear someone coming up the stairs or something.
Yeah, that I get what you mean.
I find it interesting that both of you insist on the idea that it's a game that can be played whichever way you want, when both of you also say that you've never tried playing it as an action game.
Well, I've had segments where something's gone wrong, and instead of, like, reloading or something, I'll just go balls to the wall. And, like, you can kill everyone in an area using, like, different powers and, like...
Considering the game gives you grenades and, like, fucking trip mines and a pistol. Like, yeah, I'm in a similar boat to Keenan. I've done sections of the game where, like I said, you mess up and someone sees you, like, completely killing everyone and blinking around and stabbing people in the throat and throwing grenades into rooms and stuff like that. But, yeah, I think you definitely could set out to play the game like that if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I think I will add... I think the reason that we kind of all played it in a stealthy way is maybe because of the chaos system in a way. And this, I won't go too far into it because it kind of goes into story, but I think the game definitely makes you feel like a bit of an arsehole if you're just going out killing everyone. Like,
yeah.
The game just goes like, hey, look at what you did. You're a fucking arsehole, right?
Yeah, I very briefly touched on that in my intro.
Yeah.
And, like, the game several times at the beginning of it tells you not to make too much noise or kill too many people, otherwise you're going to get a bad ending. And I'm pretty sure it specifically says you'll get a bad ending.
Well, you have a chaos, you have a reminder of, like, your current chaos as you play, and, I mean, I had it on low, but I was curious as to what the ending was when you got high chaos, so I was like... Oh, okay. I'm glad I got through that low chaos thing, because fuck me.
Again, at the risk of straying too much into story discussion, which we'll put it back to gameplay in a second. There are very few times I've been more upset in a game when at the last mission where Samuel takes you on your last boat ride. And I don't know what specific condition, whether you have to start low chaos and then go high kind of midway through the game. But there was a point that find a boat rider here was like, that's a shame, Corvo. I thought you were one of the good ones, but what you've done is left death in your wake. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to. Like, I felt legitimately really bad. I just tried. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
I didn't. He's an asshole.
I figured that'd be something like that.
Because I was trying to get through the game without killing people, but I didn't realize that the fucking asshole zombies count. And so there's one level where I killed like 40 of them or something, and that fucked up my game.
Hashtag zombies are people too. But yeah, I suppose bring it back towards the gameplay. I do feel like these levels do have this really nice feeling, and it feels doubly good being able to go back to levels you previously explored a lot, because now you have so much more knowledge of those areas and how they're laid out and what way and how to kind of get around them. I think one of the prime examples for me is the doctor's office from the first area. So I realized, so the first time I did it, I went through the front door. And I kind of snuck up, tranked one of the guards, threw them over the edge so they're in a little, like, alleyway beneath the house, and then just went in the front door. But then the second time I realized that you can go in through the balcony.
Yeah.
So you can avoid all the kind of the hassle of trying not to get caught by walking up the main road, which is heavily guarded. And I feel like it does quite a good job at that. And plus, when you come back, you often have more powers. So things like Blink having further distance or whatnot, which helps you make... Because I don't think... I might be wrong here, but I don't think you can make that Blink initially with level 1 Blink. I think you need level 2 Blink to go from the obvious vantage point on one side of the street to the doctor's office balcony on the other side. And yeah, I just feel like in terms of the gameplay, there's a nice variety of stuff going on without it feeling too overwhelming as well, I think.
Yeah.
The game definitely presents you avenues to go down. And you can definitely specialize in, all stealth, all combat, or even just some mix of the two if you want to.
Yeah.
I will say, to mention bad things, I suppose, Blink does feel disgustingly useful. Like,
Is that a bad thing?
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It would have been nice if I felt compelled to use other powers, though.
Fair.
Again, it's not a huge problem. And it does feel good to use, but it would have been nice. Like there's like 8 powers in that game, and honest to God, I can only tell you 2 of them off the top of my head, which is darkness and blink.
Well, 4 or so of them are specifically violent powers.
To me, the Blink was kind of what made the game fun for me. I was like, if the game didn't have the Blink, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting.
Yes, I agree with that too. Yeah, absolutely. I just, like I said, it's not a big thing. It's just a minor thing from my point of view of, I have all these powers available, but the game's only giving me reason to use one of them a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Which feels like a shame. Because I'm sure some of the other abilities are very cool.
I remember using Possession quite a lot. I'd use the rats to get around people and go through the vents and things like that.
Oh yeah, that was something you could use, wasn't it?
It was.
I started using that near the end.
I used that ability once, and then I accidentally became not a rat in the middle of a room of enemies, and they all stopped. So I decided to never use that ability again. Anyone else want to talk about the gameplay?
Yeah. No, I will say, I think some of my favourite things in games in general is when the mechanics almost feel like a sandbox in its own right. Like the level design, the gameplay almost feel like you could just sort of mix and match and have this kind of sandboxy experience.
Yeah.
And that game definitely... Because that's what I don't like about most stealth games is... Take the Hitman example of like, oh, you got caught, go back. Go back and do it again.
Like straight game over, fail state, someone saw you, GG.
The fact that the only game over is you dying is just like cool if you... Well, as far as I know, the only game over is you dying. But yeah, it's like you have to essentially live with your mistakes, and that's fine. Like it brings you into that action section of the mechanics very naturally, I find. And even though I essentially used Blink and Vision and a little bit of Possession, I did find myself using the other powers like now and again when the situation was right.
Yeah.
Like for the final mission with the lighthouse, the amount of times I used the fucking gust of wind to just throw them off. Because it was like...
I only used that towards the end as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this is too perfect not to use, so I just threw them off.
I think that one's a really interesting power because the first level of it is it doesn't kill. It just knocks people away. I think it does some damage as well. But
yeah, it does a bit of damage, yeah, but...
But, like, then the second level of it instantly kills them.
Yeah.
And so you've got that choice of power, essentially, of, like, do I want something that's non-lethal, but is, like, a really useful way to get through a segment where I've messed up?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want something that's just going to blow everyone up?
Well, yeah, it very much leans into... I think it is wrong to kind of go into this game thinking like, oh, it's a stealth game, because it really isn't. It's dictated by the way you play it, what kind of genre. Because, I mean, I think, you know, the amount of times I've touched on this, but yeah, you can just go through this as an action game. You can pick that power-up upgrade to be, like, instantly kill them and just fucking, like, breeze through it, essentially.
Yeah,
but,
take all the pistol upgrades and whatnot.
Yeah, take all the pistol upgrades and just shit like that. But, yeah, obviously we went for the more stealthy route, so, you know, we picked upgrades. But I like that it gives you the choice. It's really good.
I know Keenan did this. I specifically made a point of like not save scumming.
Yeah, no,
like I was specifically like I am. Even though the temptation was there, like, oh, I'm trying to do the stealthy, and someone saw me, I'm going to backtrack my save. I specifically was like, no, I'm going to play this like as if like that wasn't available, that wasn't an option. If I fuck up, I just have to deal with that the best I can. Which sometimes meant going into a room or a building where like, I'm going to try and be it stealthy and getting seen and having to kill like half the building just because you messed up. But it felt like a far more natural experience that way.
Yeah.
And felt like kind of what you said, Kin. I think it drew me in to experience it in much more depth and kind of immersion, as opposed to playing the game in a specific way to meet a specific set of goals that I had set.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it very much, like, just how the world is built, how, like, just the setting of it, the story, everything. Like, because they're done so well, like you said, you want to sort of get immersed in it, and by getting immersed in it, you don't want to rely on save scumming. You just think, like, you just naturally go into that, I'll just deal with whatever consequences come my way. Like, if I have to kill all these people, then that's what I'm going to do.
Did we play the same game? I can't tell you the amount of times I reloaded to save.
Oh,
I was doing it all the time.
There were plenty of times I could have. But I specifically chose not to.
Maybe near the beginning for me, I may have felt that, but I think naturally as I got through the game, I just thought about it less. Like, if it just subconsciously, I kind of just didn't really think about saves coming later in the game, and I sort of got immersed in it.
It's still a legitimate way to play the game. I just think it gets you less immersed in what's going on.
Okay, well, I should probably start talking. So you guys have been talking a lot about how it's kind of a stealth game, but also you can choose to play it differently. You can choose however you want to play the game. Right, and obviously that is cool. I'm not disputing that. But and then there's also this element of how the way that you play the game changes how the story unfolds, right? Which is also cool.
It changes how the story unfolds, and it also changes up how the levels actually play out. So there'll be more guards and stuff if you've gone high chaos.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah,
so it's a gameplay and a story effect.
Yeah. There was one problem, and I understand that this very specifically affects me, and wouldn't affect any of you guys because none of you guys seem to give a shit about the story, really. And for me, it was that once you get engaged in combat, once you get seen, and it's like, okay, now you got to fight now. I didn't have a problem with fighting. In fact, I actually quite liked the fighting, but I didn't do it a lot, and that's because once you start fighting, there's basically no way to end it non-lethally. Unless you have the sleep darts and the upgrade to use it in combat. But even then, those are a resource, so you'll run out of those eventually. You can't do that with everyone. So basically, if you start getting into fights, you have to kill people. And I very much consciously made the decision at the beginning, because of the way this character was set up, that he's initially a good guy, he's a bodyguard, right? I wanted to play him as a good guy, so I wanted to go through not killing innocents. You know, I didn't have a problem killing the assassination targets, whatever, because I know you can also choose to take care of the targets non-lethally, which I never did, because those are bad guys and they deserve to die. But just random guards throughout the level, they're just,
Judge Dredd.
You know, doing a job. They're innocent. I don't want to kill them. So I tried to get through that initial prison level at the beginning, not killing anyone, and couldn't. And the thing is, right, it's like it's annoying because once you start killing people, then that sets you down the path of the story changing towards the, high chaos and, the quote unquote bad ending, right? And so basically what it means is you either have, like, if you want to not get the bad ending and you want to play the character in a specific way, you basically are forced into stealthing the entire game. If you want to get that certain story, then you have to play the game in a certain way.
Yeah.
Which is what bothered me. Because I actually, again, I liked the action part of it, and I wanted to do more of that, but I couldn't, because that would lead you towards the bad ending, and then lol, got the bad ending anyway. But, but yeah.
Oh, I know that feeling.
But yeah, and that's, I know some people are probably going to say, oh, but that, are you really gonna, you're gonna say that seems trivial. But the game itself makes such a big deal about both of those things. It makes a big deal about choosing your own way to play, and it makes a big deal about how you play affecting the ending. So then when those things start to contradict each other and you have to choose, then that's just wasn't fun for me.
I do agree that it tells you that if you play the action way, you're going to get a bad ending. And like you said, that contradicts the whole playing your own way. I feel like that's not the way they should have pushed it to make it a stealth game mainly.
I mean, they should have just made non-lethal combat.
I didn't feel it for any story reasons, but I definitely felt that frustration of being like, I want to end this combat in a non-lethal way.
Yeah.
But I have no means to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, since we're kind of on the topic, and I mentioned it earlier, the whole thing with I was trying to get through the game with killing as few people as I could. That didn't work out for every level, but there were some levels where I didn't kill anyone, and I was like, okay, I feel like I can get at least a decent ending. Okay, so to touch on the story a little bit, just for the context, there's a plague. And when you get infected by the plague, you become a weeper, which is basically like you kind of become a zombie, essentially. It didn't occur to me that killing weepers counts towards your chaos level. I thought it was just especially since the game definitely, treats it, like, story-wise, treats weepers in sort of like they're basically dead, there's nothing we can do for them. Might as well kill them, doesn't matter, right? That's how it feels in the story. But then if you do kill them, the game keeps track of it. And so there was one level where I killed like 40 of them, and it said that at the end. It gives you like stats of like how you did in the level. And it said you killed no guards, but you killed 40 weepers, so you ended with high chaos. And I was like, oh no. Well, oh no. And then, as we mentioned again, because of that, fucking Samuel had a go at me at the end. And it's like, okay, I'd understand that if, like, I was going around killing guards left and right, especially because, like, the propaganda in the game would be using that against Corvo, against the main guy. Like, they'd be putting it out there like, oh, the assassin's killing guards left and right, they want to make him look like a bad guy. So if I was doing that, I'd understand why Samuel would have a problem with me. But how the fuck does Samuel know that I killed like 40 weepers in the sewers and beneath the city where nobody ever goes? How does he know that? How does anyone know that? How the hell does that affect my relationship with him? It doesn't make sense. It's dumb.
See, I find it funny because all the things you're saying I thought of, but for me they were just like passing thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, I was killing them, I was like, I wonder if this counts towards my chaos. Oh well. I just carried on with the game.
Yeah, it did bug me a little bit, but it wasn't like something that ruined my experience.
One thing I will say that genuinely annoyed me about the whole chaos system is it felt like I went from low chaos to high chaos in like one level. I felt like I was doing super well. I had one level where I had to kill a few more guards than I normally would, and the game was like, right, that's it, high chaos. Obviously, we don't know the numerical values of, what chaos is like low, medium, and high, and how much chaos is killing a guard. Maybe that's online somewhere. I didn't think.
I
to
think
check.
I've heard that it's something like they give you like a grace of like 20%. I want to say.
Okay.
I saw conflicting information when I looked it up.
Yeah, it might
Yeah.
be conflicted.
Okay. But yeah, I remember thinking it was the mission based around the bridge.
Oh yeah, that one's tough.
Yeah.
That was tough, and I fucked up a few times and I had to kill a fair few people. But like before that, my chaos was low.
Yeah.
I finished that level and it was like cumulative chaos high. And I was like, what? How did I go from low to high chaos in one mission?
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
feel like I needed like a moderate chaos. 'Cause,
Yeah, I agree.
The feeling of going from like, you're fine, it's all daisies and happy fun times low, and then also it's like, you've ruined everything because you killed one more guard than you should have. So what?
Yeah.
Can I just ask something? There was this one thing in one of the early missions when you have to kill is it the High Overseer or something?
Mm-hmm.
And then before you go, one of the girls at the base is like, "Oh, my uncle's there. Don't kill him. He's a good guy."
Ah, that guy.
Like
Yeah.
I really liked that was a thing. Did they do that again at any point? Like give you an optional criteria?
I thought every mission had one.
Yeah, I
Does
thought
it?
I was
so
going to
as
say
well.
there's a few.
I'm struggling to
options.
think.
There was one with the whale oil, I believe it was, like the giant whale, and it was like you could either put it out of its misery or.
I have no idea what you're
I think so. Here's my theory behind this because I thought the same thing. I think because of the way the hub is laid out, it's very easy to get to Samuel's boat and skip the NPC you're meant to walk past to give you the objective.
Oh, you need to. The game doesn't just give it to you. You need to go find it.
Yeah, you need to
Yeah,
talk.
yeah, every time it's on the way out of the pub to the boat,
Oh, that
an
was-
NPC stops you and is like, "Hey, I need a favor. I need you to do this or that for me." And I'm pretty sure I did the same thing where I missed NPCs because I don't know. I fucking blinked from the second or third floor straight next to the boat and was like, "Let's get out of here."
Well, that's a shame because that was one aspect I really liked, and I guess I just missed the rest of them.
There's the one where you have to go to the brothel and they ask you to humiliate the artist.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because without that, the mission's kind of easy. But as soon as you add that bit in, you're like, oh, no, this has got a load more complicated if I want to do that optional thing.
Yeah. I was going to say quickly on the note of the uncle. When I got to that point, I was trying to get all the targets non-lethally. And so I spilt over the wine glasses, broke them.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so they were walking out of the room to go somewhere else. I was like, well, now's as good as first time as any. And so I just sleep darted both of them. Yeah, I had to take him and brand him and all that stuff. But I was like, okay, so I'll just leave the uncle here because he's not going to die now because I've got the guy that was about to kill him. And it turns out, if you don't hide the uncle's body, he dies anyway. Because I guess the guards come in the room and kill him.
Probably.
So I was like, yes, I did it. I got the optional objective. And then I got back and the woman was like, why didn't you save him? It's like, no, I did.
See,
Yeah, that sucks.
I don't know whether this is a bug or this is how it's intended to work, but I only sleep darted the High Overseer. And the uncle just ran away.
Yeah, that happened for
really?
me.
I don't know whether that's what's meant to happen. He just fucking ran away and was like,
guess
"Screw you."
the idea is he's running to get help. But yeah, that's what I did as well.
But he never comes back. And it counts like, oh, you saved him, good job, mission successful.
So I basically shouldn't have sleep darted him, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there was so you know the mansion mission, the Boyles. I wanted to touch on a thing on that. There was so the whole idea is you're going to this mansion party, and you know that you're supposed to be finding a woman called Lady Boyle, but there's three of them. There's the mother and the two daughters, and you don't know which Lady Boyle it is you have to get.
Yeah.
So it kind of turns into this mystery. You have to go around and find clues to help narrow down which one it is. Which was before you actually do the assassination or whatever. Which was a really cool idea. But then I feel like the game kind of played itself, literally, at one point in that. So when you find clues, it will automatically update your objective. And I got to a point where I picked up a clue, and then the game like updated the objective to be like, okay, you got to kill this Lady Boyle. And I was like, wait, what? I didn't. Is that what I? Okay, like I hadn't put together the clues, but the game, because I picked up enough clues to figure it out, the game just gave me the answer for me, and I was like, oh, okay. I wish I could have figured that out.
Yeah, I do think that segment was executed pretty poorly, but like everything was there for it to be fantastic.
I will 100% agree with that. I was ready to go full, like, fucking Sherlock Holmes in that bitch.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, let's go. I have to imagine, the game was clearly set up within a certain framework to play like a stealth game. And I think they probably wanted to do a lot of these little bits and pieces, but they probably struggled to find development time to flesh that out entirely. Because like you said, like all the building blocks are there for a genuinely great puzzle.
I mean, literally in the game, I don't know if you did the non-lethal method, but like after you've talked to a bunch of the guests and you figured out who it is, or if the game's told you who it is, someone comes up to you and is like, I know what you're doing, I'll take them off your hands. And then that guy actually tells you what dress they're wearing and what their name is. And so they could have literally just used that mechanic and have it so like, if you haven't figured it out, or if you're in this lobby for way too long, a guy can just come up and tell you.
Yeah, I didn't actually even know that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it only happened after I had the clues.
That's actually something I wanted to touch on as well. That dude. So he comes up to you and is like, yeah, I know what you're doing. Don't kill her. You know, just bring her to me in the basement and I'll get her out and I'll make sure, you never see her again.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do it this way for once. Like, I'm gonna try the non-lethal method for once. Especially because Lady Boyle seemed pretty disconnected from the whole thing story-wise. So I was like, okay, whatever. I'll try it this time. And then you deliver her to him in the basement, and then it only becomes apparent after that I think the implication was that he didn't really know her, but he was just like some kind of stalker who was, admired her.
Yeah.
But she wanted nothing to do with him. And then they ride off on the boat together, and it was at that point that I thought, I may have just sent her to a fate worse than death.
Yeah.
And it's annoying because it's like, it was the one time that I wanted to take the non-bad option, and then I feel like the game fucking debated me and was like, psych, you did the bad option anyway. And it's like, that just feels shit. But it gave you the option to realize, oh shit, this is actually really bad, and then you had a chance to like
To be fair,
kill him and change your mind.
To be fair, did the game give you any information between the initial confrontation with that guy and you handing her over to make you realise that he's probably a creepo stalker?
I think it gives you clues in the first conversation with him, and then in the second conversation, it makes, like during the cutscene, it makes it very clear.
Yeah, the second, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's different then, yeah.
Yeah.
I think revealing information like that after the fact is kind of side tangent here, but it's similar to why the BBC Sherlock Holmes series sucks.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
I've only heard good things about that, but okay.
That's a tangent I wasn't expecting to go on.
So a big problem with the BBC Sherlock Holmes, and this is relevant, honest, I swear to God.
Giving me shit about why I'm wrong about things. Let's hear you explain this.
So part of the big problem with the Sherlock Holmes TV series, maybe not the first series or the first season or so, but definitely like the last few, is that as the viewer, you can't figure out any of the mysteries by yourself. Like, the appeal of a investigation show, whether it's a murder mystery or whatever, and from what I understood is the appeal of a lot of Sherlock Holmes stuff, is that the clues were there. The viewer could like, to a reasonable degree, kind of figure out what was going on with the information provided. Like, how, you might realize how the killer did something, or you might make some connection because of clues that the show gave you prior to the main character realizing it. And that's really cool. That, like, gives you something, I figured this out before they did. That's really interesting. I've not watched any of the older Sherlock Holmes adaptions, and the Robert Downey Jr. one doesn't count. But, like, a lot of people say that's what the older ones did. They would give both you and Sherlock Holmes the same set of clues. And sometimes you might figure that out, but more often than not, Sherlock Holmes would figure it out before you did. But if there were every time you did, you'd feel smart, basically, doing that. And yeah, and so the problem with the modern one is that it doesn't do that. Sherlock Holmes just seemingly fucking pulls information out of thin air that you, as the viewer, were never presented with. And I feel like that's a very similar thing to what you're discussing here, Kyle, is for the game to throw something in your face, doubly so when it insults you for not realizing it. Like, the game throwing something back in your face after you try to do the good thing because it gives you information past the point of no return that you couldn't have possibly known prior, feels shitty. Because it doesn't feel like you're not left with the feeling of, I could have figured that out myself and I just didn't because I'm dumb. It's the game withheld information from me and only revealed it to me after, like I said, the point of no return.
I would agree with you in this case, Max. I do not agree with you in the context of Sherlock, but we can talk about that another day.
Yeah, I need to go rewatch Sherlock. Like I said, maybe not for the first season or two, but definitely the last couple.
I don't know.
There's a YouTube channel called The Closer Look, and he did a fantastic episode on Sherlock Holmes. Just saying.
All right.
I'll link it to you after this, and then we can have a discussion about it, Carl. Anyway, Dishonored. This game.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So to bring us back on topic, something I want to talk about, which it's the world building. So nothing that is, just for those of you who don't know what world building is, nothing that is overtly said by characters would count as story, like exposition, etc. But it's the level layout, like level design, and it's kind of secondary bits of information on the level that, again, aren't pertinent to the story, but exist within the world. So things like, audio logs, like non-essential audio logs, even kind of going into a room and finding cool things, or going into a basement and, finding, actually, prime example, is it Granny, is her name just Granny?
Granny Rags.
Granny Rags, that's it. Like, when you go out the back of a house and find the fucking demonic summoning plinth, and you're like, oh my, Granny, what are we doing here? Like, things like that are an example of world building. And what we can agree, the story is not great, nor the focus of the game. The world building in Dishonored is phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%
It is fantastic. Everything from, like, the audio to the way the world looks and the way the world feels to be in. The back alleys full of, rubbish and, kind of people who just look down on their luck, rats swarming around the place. Like, it feels like an excellent world to be in. Well, not excellent to be in, but terrifying to be in, but excellently crafted to feel terrifying to be in. There we go. Yeah, and that's before considering things like, the flooded sector. The flooded district.
You hear about that from the beginning of the game. The
Yes.
flooded district.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I remembered hearing about it, and I was like, maybe that's why I thought I was imagining it, and then it happened.
Yeah. And the audio logs help with that, obviously. Do you know one aspect of world building that
God.
really isn't good?
Go on.
And Carl points out, why is the dialogue between the guards so awful? I have had the line, yes, I think we shall, burned into my fucking brain. Like, why is that their response to everything, and why is it so monotone?
Yeah.
Like,
I swear there's, like, only 3 guard voices as well. Like,
yeah.
It was so great. It was so great to hear, and this would happen multiple times throughout the game. You would hear little chit-chats between the guards, but you would literally hear, like, 2 guards talking to each other in the same voice. And it was so bizarre. It's like,
I just love how The request could be, shall we meet for whiskey and cigars tonight? Yes, I think we shall. Shall we go and interrogate the prisoner? Yes, I think we shall. It's like, what? How is your reaction the same? I get that, you know, I want to put it down to games of the time just not really having the resources to fully voice to a good extent the sheer number of enemies and guards that were around.
I was going to say the exact same thing, because it reminds me immediately of Skyrim.
Yeah, it would have been that time, yeah.
I will agree with that when it comes to not having many guard voices. But having the two guards talk to each other in the same voice is unexcusable. They should have been able to accommodate for that.
But at the same time, that entire system is dynamic. Like,
yes, that is true.
So, they still could have avoided that.
They couldn't, because the voices would have been consistent with the character they are assigned to, right?
Yeah.
So if those two happen to walk near each other, they will have a conversation. Maybe they should have had like a different tone of the same lines or something.
Pitch shift it.
Yeah, maybe. You know, just like so it sounds like the same person, but just saying
Yes,
it
I
a
think
little
we
differently.
shall.
Yes.
Yes, I think we shall.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely funny.
It's a shame because some of the dialogue that you could overhear, like I found myself just sort of not doing anything and just listening to the dialogue, at least of the important characters, just to sort of get more story.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Then you've just got the guards that,
Just get those three voice actors to do bad accents for. Should we go interrogate the prisoner? Oui, I think we shall.
One of the bits I liked, and I don't think this was a dynamic event, but it would have been really cool if it was. I think this was like a scripted event. There was a point where you come across a couple of guards basically trying to mug a woman for the money she has. Mm-hmm. And it would have been like, that was a really cool bit to kind of come across it, because you hear like people talking, kind of getting a little bit boisterous up ahead, and you kind of peek your head around the corner and you see them there. And that was a really cool encounter, and I feel like having some sort of dynamic system to further populate Dunwall would have been really cool with that.
Yeah.
But I understand, again, I think it probably comes down to a resources thing more than anything.
Yeah, I would say so.
Who made Dishonored? Was it Arkham?
Yep.
Arcane. Yeah,
Arcane. Had they made much before that point?
I don't remember.
I looked it up and I think no. They'd done like 2 games before. They'd done Arx Fatalis, which was an action role-playing game in 2002, and Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. I want to play that game.
Woo!
Which is a first-person action role.
It's like a journey.
So
okay,
this was their big game then.
I mean, yeah, I understand why maybe they wouldn't have had the resources to pull off things like that. Anyway, back to the good things about the world building. It is all fantastic though. Still, even with all those things that we just talked about, it is still great.
they're doing Deathloop?
They are.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm actually. I keep forgetting Deathloop is a game that's coming out. I'm really excited for Deathloop.
I remember when the gameplay was first shown. It had the blink mechanic, and I was like, "Oh, this looks exactly like Dishonored gameplay. This is going to be brilliant." And then found out who it was made by. I was like, "Yes!"
I feel like Dishonored distilled in me a really a love for games that are both mechanically competent and very well structured world building wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just be like, I am having fun just existing in this game and just going around and doing my thing type.
There wasn't a particular moment that... There wasn't a particular thing I'm just like, that was great. It's just everything about Dishonored just felt great together.
I'll agree most of the world building's great. You know what isn't great world building? Fucking writing 16 billion pages of text and then hiding them throughout your level. And being like, go read these. I didn't read any of them. I got to a point where I was...
the Skyrim effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't read them.
I got to a point
I didn't
where I
read
realised that most of it wasn't important and stopped reading them. The moment I picked something up and it was text, I was just like, nope, don't need that.
Whenever I see stuff like that, like, oh, wow, I really appreciate the effort that went into this, and now I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, like, I would be okay with it if there was, like, because some of them were a lot of them were quite long. I'd be okay with it if there was like one of those per level. Then I would read them, probably.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't though.
But there was like loads of them in every level. I was like, well, I'm not reading all of this.
And some of them were repeats as well, though. I did notice, because I was specifically going and picking up every book because I wanted the little tick mark. And so sometimes I'd pick up a book and I was like, oh, I've already got this one. The same way that like the game has the same key for a door throughout the level, so you can get it in different places. It's very clever.
It did commit the cardinal sin though of not having audio logs follow you around when you move after you start playing them.
It did, but it didn't have many audio logs.
Did they follow you around?
No. I meant it did commit that sin.
Oh, okay, yes. But yeah, it didn't have many of them. But still, fucking let people move around with audio logs. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
I understand it's cool to have, the fade in and out audio effect. That sounds awesome. It's frustrating, though, because you're basically saying to me, hey, I know you're playing this game, but can you just fucking sit in this room, wait and listen?
Like, again, I've never played Bioshock, but I know a bit about it, and it baffles me that Bioshock, in 2008 or something, showed everyone how you're supposed to do that. And games to this day still don't fucking do it.
It's ridiculous. I don't fucking understand it. Especially, if it's... I would maybe understand a little bit more if these things were, a big, bulky record player, right? Yeah, so, if you wanted to get really, we don't want to do it because of, that wouldn't be realistic in game, even though that's bullshit, but whatever. We'll ignore that for a second. In Dishonored, they're little punch card things. Yeah. It's there is no reason I couldn't have this mounted on my wrist or in a backpack or something like that. Speaking of, the worst offender for that was fucking Doom. I'm are you kidding me? I'm the fucking Doom Slayer. I have a fucking laser sword, but we can't figure out to give me a fucking MP3 player.
I don't know about you guys, but I ended up using the heart quite a lot to find out about the different characters and the areas.
Yeah. I did that a few times.
I was just sitting there listening to what the heart had to say, to be honest.
Yeah.
Tell me your words.
Exactly.
Because the heart would actually move around with me.
I didn't use that a lot. She creeped me out.
And
it is creepy.
God, I swear, towards the end, it just starts saying things like, "Oh God, this is awful. What happened to me?" It's oh, what am I holding? Where am I getting my info from? And I found that was my main source of actual info to do with the world building rather than just feeling, because I did sit around and listen to the audio logs, but I didn't read any of the books, and the rest of it's sort of very visual world building, right? Mm-hmm. So it was nice to hear about what's going on and hear it through a lens of a supernatural sense, so you can know what people are thinking and things like that.
Yeah,
I thought it was a very clever way of doing it.
It also the fucking beating heart with all the mechanisms in it felt very Dishonored too.
Oh, for sure.
Just the look of it, it just felt oh yeah, this is some grimy shit right here. This just feels like Dishonored. You got all the pipes and wiring coming out of it, and you've got the little window into the middle of the heart. Mwah.
Actually, kind of ties to a minor point, I guess, that I was telling Keenan about, which is that I found the whole supernatural element to be kind of out of place. I'm not gonna lie. The game sets itself up to be this kind of dystopian, future-ish kind of, story about political sabotage and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, this fucking dude shows up and is hey, I'm a god, I'm gonna give you powers, here you go. And it's where did this come from and why me and what's happening? Okay, so yeah, I have powers now. I was I don't know, it seemed really, really strange.
I think I agree with you, but from the sense of that, yes, it's very unexplained. It's not that... I think it... supernatural powers fit within the setting, but they don't fit within the story, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, I could totally see there being supernatural powers within the world. Like, I think it fits that regard. But in terms of story, you're right. He does kind of bum me like, hey, how's it going? Thought I'd just drop on by and give you some magic powers. And then you get some kind of explanation at the end, but it's all very wishy-washy. Yeah, there's never a concrete explanation. And not even like, and when I say that, I don't even mean like the powers come from X or Y. I more mean there was just never a clear reason for them. It felt like they spent so much time on designing the world and the powers in the gameplay. They're like, fuck, we need to have a reason as why it happens. Make there a man, mysterious man. Give him black eyes and teleportation, and make him pop up in random areas. Okay.
Also, why does the most powerful god ever, who like controls over this realm and has a cult following him, look like the kid that everyone picked on at school?
Yeah, I was going to say, I do agree to an extent, but I think that the outsider is integrated quite well into the world in the sense of, like, there's graffiti and there's people talking about him and there's, like, bad press, and then you got the cult, and it's all very well integrated.
It fits well within the world. I think in terms of it having explanation within the story is a little light.
Yeah. The impression that I got was that he was just doing it because he wanted to have a laugh. Wanted to be more interesting. Yeah.
But I mean, that kind of also links back to the point we've made a few times now of story weak, world building good.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Although I do feel it was, again, the whole occult magic side of things was maybe underutilized a little bit as well. Like, aside from the whole stuff with Granny Rags, doesn't really ever play into the story that much, which kind of upset me. I suppose that comes down to personal taste at that point.
Yeah, I figured it would, like, using the powers would come back to bite you or something like that. But
yeah, that would have been cool if something like that happened.
I have one other thing. My other point that contradicts the first point. I remember, right, getting off of the boat in the first main mission, and you're supposed to be on a mission to go and kill a guy. And I would think in my mind, right, like when you're an assassin now, and you've got this target, you know who you're going to kill, you know, that's your objective. And I would think that you would plan that out meticulously ahead of time. Right, so you know exactly where you need to go. You know all the little alleyways you're going down, how you're going to not be avoided. You know exactly how you're going to pull this kill off. Like some fucking GTA 5 heist shit, right? Right, planned out in excruciating detail. But that's not how the game treats any of these assassination missions. It just dumps you off in an area that you've never been before. And it's like, alright, find your own way. And it's like, this doesn't seem right. I feel like an assassin would plan this out, but I'm just kind of wandering about, stumbling all over the place, trying to figure things out, trying to find shit, and all of a sudden, I've gone sidetracked, and now I'm, like, doing side missions for Granny Rags, and I'm like, shouldn't I be trying to bring down an empire right now? I'm like, this seems weird. And that just created this, this dissonance between what the narrative felt like it was building, this assassination mission, and the gameplay, where rather than going to kill this guy, I'm running around doing random shit. Because I don't know where I'm going. And I've been sidetracked by a bunch of side missions. And that, again, for you guys, for whom the story isn't a big deal, you're just enjoying the gameplay.
I do agree with what you were saying there. However, I would say that the narrative does lend towards the gameplay. It's just very flaky. In the sense that pretty much every target, it will say, like, okay, we know this person is going to be here for 24 hours, and that's the most time that you've got. You need to go right now. And then you'll show up and it'll be like, okay, here's what you could go and do to accomplish this. Do it as quickly as you can. I think the game does try to give you a reason for why you have this, like, no plan, just go for it attitude. But it seems like a very last minute addition.
I feel like it's probably very similar to when you have, like, a shooter game, and you're following on, they're like, come on, hurry up, like, we gotta get going, and you could just stand there. and just kind of be like, and the NPC's like, come on, get over here, go, and you're like, well, I'm just having a look around.
It's the classic thing with like open world RPGs and specifically Elder Scrolls games, where it's like, you've got to fucking take down this massive threat, and it's just like, nah, I'm just gonna fucking pick flowers or some shit.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I'm just gonna go join the Thieves Guild and infiltrate the highest ranks while a really important mission is here. Sorry, Carl, go on.
Yeah, and that's basically exactly what like the whole game felt like to me, and so I constantly felt like I couldn't really enjoy the story properly because it just none of it made sense in my head, right? And that was the case right up until the twist happens.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the twist. What the fuck?
No, we didn't talk about the twist. Yeah, so throughout most of the game, you're being sent out by the rebels, basically trying to bring down the corrupt empire, to assassinate various people in political power. For like 5 missions or so, and then like near the end, you go to the point where it's like, yeah, we did it. We beat like 2/3 of the way into the game. You're like, we did it. We beat the bad guys. Hooray! And then all your rebel friends turn on you and try to kill you. And they're like, now we're going to take over and be evil. And then you got to kill them. But from that point, you're not being sent out on these specific assassination missions anymore. From that point, you're just like, you've just been left deserted in the city, and you got to find your way back and try to just at that point, the story finally started to match the gameplay in that at that point you would just be kind of stumbling around trying to find your way through, because there's no plan at that point anymore. At that point you're just on your own completely. And legitimately at that point in the game I actually started enjoying it. Mm-hmm. Because I was only doing like 1 mission every day that I played it before, until the twist happened, and I ended up accidentally doing the 3 missions in a row. I was like, oh shit, because I actually started enjoying myself. I was like, once the story started to match the way that you play the game, I suddenly was appreciating it so much more. And like, I actually enjoyed those missions, like the Flooded District. I really enjoyed, and the one after that where you have to go back to the hub world, which is now a level of its own, and you got to sneak through and save all your friends that are still alive.
Yeah, I'm by no means... I'm not saying the problems you list aren't a problem because this is what I did, but I know from my point of view, I saw it very much like an assassin is going to want to scope out the area of the assassination before they go into it.
The scoping and the actual assassination were all one segment.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Like that part where you plan out your assassination, and kind of get a look around the area was in the same gameplay section as when you actually carry out the assassination. Again, like, I didn't think too hard about it. So that's probably another benefit to me, is that I imagine like you said, Carl, the fact that you're more attuned to those kind of things, I mean, you probably picked it up better than I did. Whereas for me, it was very easily passed away with just a kind of dismissive, kind of comment, and I didn't think about it again.
I think something that sort of goes with what you were saying, Max, a lot of the time near the beginning of the level, it will give you a map, or like, you'll find a map very early on, which you can use to plan out your route and get to where you need to go as well.
Yeah, for the most part for me that wasn't enough, but I said I get why it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, I mean, that makes more sense now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about the twist, to be honest, other than it felt quite well done. Yeah,
I liked it. I liked the way that when like you get back and you're having the big celebration, and then like your vision starts going blurry and the weird ringing noise.
Yeah.
And you're like, I was like, the fuck? Like, I was about to stop, and then that happened. I was like, well, I'm just going to go a little bit longer because I feel like something important's about to happen.
Yeah, I remember it being a legitimate surprise. Like some twists like that, you can often see coming.
Yeah.
But this one, like, legit was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, I remember that was one of the bits I remember from my first playthrough, and just being like pretty shocked, to be honest.
Yeah, it did kind of feel that way.
I wasn't expecting it, especially from the beginning when you first see Emily and she runs up to you and she's like, "Oh, Mom's hanging out with that nasty whoever the fuck," right? And as soon as she said that, I was like, "Okay, he's the bad guy." And then, like 5 minutes later,
he was the spy master as well.
Spy master, yeah. And 5 minutes later, you find out, oh, he's the bad guy. Can't believe it.
I actually going back to a conversation we had earlier, but what's relevant now is the mission you mentioned, Kyle, where you have to go back to the pub to sneak around it after the twist. There's a really funny dialogue conversation between two NPCs there.
Oh yeah,
where they talk about how we don't know where Corv is. He could be anywhere. He could be watching us right now.
Yeah.
And the other guard is like, "Don't be silly. He's not watching us. He's not even here." And you're like, I just find that quite funny.
That was one of the points that I saved, and then I teleported right in front of them to see what they do.
Because I was like, because there was a point during that dialogue where he's like saying he could be watching us right now, and he's gonna creep up on us. And he's gonna get closer and closer and closer, and then wham! And I was really I thought to myself when he said that, if I was developing this game, I would make it so that if you killed him right at the point where he said wham, you get an achievement.
Oh yes,
that'd be good. I just have something else I wanted to mention.
Mm-hmm.
I was quite a fan of how the game made me want to do a good playthrough. For no other reason than I just wanted the outcome to be good. As in, I wanted the validation from NPCs. Because normally, again, because I'm a very results, gameplay-focused person, so for a game to make me feel like I want to do a good thing, to get the validation of the characters in-game, that's quite rare. And like I said, being legitimately upset when Samuel was like, you've done bad, Corv. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I definitely think not save scumming helped with that. Which might sound odd. But it felt like I was doing it legitimately.
I was going to say there was this one bit where I thought a lot of the dialogue in the game was kind of shit. But there's this one bit where Granny Rags says stuff to you. She's telling you the story of the bodyguard who killed the Empress. Or whatever, which is you, obviously. And then I don't know if this dialogue changes depending on what your chaos level is at the moment, but for me, right, she's talking about how, the Empress had this bodyguard and whatever, and then he killed her, and now he won't stop until he kills everyone in Dunwall. And then when she finishes telling it, she says, "You can tell that story to other people if you want. Change the ending up a bit if you want to." And I was like, that was genuinely brilliant. The way she said it, that way that the game is telling you through character dialogue to, this is the ending that you're going to get if you carry on the way that you are now, but you can still change it.
Yeah.
Is basically what she said, but she said it entirely in dialogue in a way that actually felt immersive. I was like, that was really well done.
Yeah, definitely.
One last thing, as I've only seen the ending I got, which was the high chaos ending. But from what I could tell, it's kind of weird how the game puts so much stock on the way you play determines the ending, and then there was basically no ending. There was it was very underwhelming.
If I remember correctly, too, nothing much changes about the ending, depending on high or low chaos.
The end cutscene changes quite a lot.
I was gonna say one is literally the
It's
whole
a
world.
Fallout. It's a Fallout style cutscene, right?
I haven't finished a Fallout game.
I was gonna say I don't know.
Oh, fuck's sake. Yeah. So basically, at the end of a Fallout game, you basically you get a cutscene, and it does differ depending on. It talks about your decisions that you made, and the outcomes of those decisions, and obviously differs depending on whether you made good or bad decisions.
Right. Yeah. No. This ending, there are two separate endings, but those can change a little bit depending on what you did.
Okay.
And there's one which is like the city is destroyed and there's like a plague of rats and all that stuff, which will be the one that you got. And then there's the one which is like the city's entered a golden age and the new empress is like leading it and all this stuff, and you're by her side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as well the actual like final quote unquote fight changes as well, because I believe if you get the high chaos, because I got low chaos, so I was basically just assassinating doing
Target.
the assassination, assassinating target. But I believe high chaos is like he'll have Emily at gunpoint or something on the top of her.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, that's what I had.
I was gonna say, I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize it was like the actual events."
What was the ending you had, Keenan?
But I got low chaos as well. She was locked in a cupboard.
She was locked in a cupboard, and you had to assassinate. Assassinate target.
Yeah, I had the high chaos ending where he's holding her at gunpoint, and then he like, if you don't intervene, he basically jumps off the fucking top of the lighthouse with her.
Huh.
Oh,
Jesus.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing.
I was kind of annoyed because I stopped expecting there to be like some dialogue, but there wasn't.
Oh God.
So I felt kind of like, oh, I would have done something if I'd known that that's the situation we were in. But
Yeah, I just ran him and killed him.
Nice.
But yeah, like I feel like the only thing you get after that is this like cutscene that's like really vague, where the outsider gives you this epilogue that's really vague, and I'm like, is that it?
Well, this is kind of what I was saying about. I felt the game did a good job to invest me, personally at least, in the decisions I was making and the reaction to the characters, despite there not being any tangible benefit or downside to the high or low chaos system.
I definitely agree with Kyle though. The ending cutscene was very underwhelming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would have liked to see a little bit more, like maybe even if it was just like an in-engine cutscene, I think it would have probably been better.
Well, yeah. Even if it did like a montage of different stuff, different events occurring.
I mean, that's literally exactly what the ending cutscenes of Fallout games is.
Right.
Oh,
It literally does like a slideshow montage of like the key areas and the key plot points that you did throughout the game, and talks about like how it went. It's a good 4 or 5 minute long cutscene of the game just recounting your decisions and telling you what happened.
Yeah, I definitely think a montage of like different, I don't know, just different areas of, not just this all-encompassing like, and then everything was good again.
Yeah.
Like just have like specific, I don't know.
Yeah, it would be cool if it drilled down into each area a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what happened to these guys? What happened to this organization? What?
Yeah.
Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, they could either do that, or they could go the more personal route, and we could actually see what's going on with Corvo. Because with how it ends with the low chaos, I'm not sure about high. You find Emily, she says something, and then the cutscene plays. Like
pretty much,
you see
pretty much the same for high
literally
chaos.
nothing happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because Beyond Good and Evil had a pretty simple story. It's funny, actually, how it's called Beyond Good and Evil when the story is actually a fairly simple good versus evil story. But yeah, that had a pretty simple story, so it had a simple ending. But when you have this game that's about, like, politics and shit, and, it's this whole society of people, and, it feels like it needs a bit more of a structured ending. There's a reason why Lord of the Rings has 17 endings, because it needs it.
Yeah. I think we've covered everything then.
I think so, yeah. So, in that case, how about we wrap up? So, Kyle,
Yeah.
given how you're the most outspoken about it, how about you sum up your thoughts and how you feel about the game? And would you recommend it or not?
I think that the gameplay is good. The story's kind of shit. And like the main thing for me, as we said, is how the gameplay and the story just do not mesh at all for the first 2/3 of the game, and if that's the kind of thing that bothers you about games, then I probably wouldn't recommend, like, really bothers you about games, then I wouldn't recommend Dishonored. But I understand also that that's upsets on probably a very small amount of people. So, you know, most people are probably going to enjoy this, as is evidenced by the fact that literally I've never heard anyone say anything bad about this game except for myself. So, yeah, probably would recommend it for the most part. And, again, like, that's evidenced by the fact that, for me, once the story and gameplay did start to match up near the end, I actually did genuinely enjoy the game. For, like, the last third of it. So, yeah, if that's not going to bother you too much, sure, go for it.
Kenan.
Yeah, I think Kyle's pretty much nailed it, really. The story is super weak. The gameplay is fantastic. Like, it just feels brilliant even now. I think for me, the story doesn't really let it down because the world building is so strong, so I get that same sort of immersion from the world building rather than the story that I would have normally. And that sort of connects it all for me instead. Yeah, no, I really love this game as much as I thought I did from when I played it back when it first released. I would recommend it to pretty much anyone unless, like Kyle said, you really have a problem when a game's story isn't like strong and doesn't link up to how the game plays. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Years. Yeah, obviously, I don't really have much to say on top of what's already been said about the story. Obviously, gameplay for me is amazing. I think as well, like, I would definitely recommend it, and even to the people who wouldn't like stealth games, like maybe they've played Hitman or Thief or whatever, and they're just like, I don't know, stealth games aren't really for me. I would still say give this game a go, because it is a stealth game, but it's a stealth game in a different respect. I think just the blend of action and stealth is just really good, and I would definitely recommend it in that sense. But yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, I'd probably take a slightly different approach of what you said, Nico, of the... Yeah, if you are someone that's hesitant about stealth games, I definitely think Dishonored is a great... even now, like, I've not played the second one, but I imagine the second one is probably much of the same.
Yeah.
But the first one is, a great way to kind of dip your toes into stealth games, if you're worried about it being too restrictive, because it does allow you to mess up and carry on the game and not impact anything too much. So it's definitely worth it. I mean, I would personally say give it a go, even if you do like strong stories in games.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with Kyle on that front. Or even though I acknowledge the same issues, I still think even if you're really invested in the story, you should give it a go.
Yeah.
Because goddammit, we can't agree on everything here. Someone's gonna have a different opinion. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Either way, that about does it for this episode. The next episode will be coming on the 1st of July.
And while the next episode won't be Dishonored 2, we'll definitely be playing that in the future.
You guys can.
Come on, Kyle.
I'm good.
Come on, Kyle!
Nah.
Fucker. Yeah, we definitely will go around to it. And all the other games you mentioned in our various tangents. Like the BBC Sherlock Holmes series.
Yes.
Yes.
Can't wait to play that game again.
It'll be great. Yeah, no, it will coming at some point. The next game is Halo Combat Evolved. So, with that, go play Dishonored, you plebs.
If you haven't already.
If you haven't already. I mean, go replay it.
Do it again.
Yeah, replay it. I mean, if you played it in like the last year, fair enough. But I mean, if you've not played it for a while, go play it again. It's fun.
If you have played it in the last year, play it a different way.
Play it a different way. Yeah, go back
Yeah.
and play it and just kill everyone.
Prove us wrong.
Like-
Prove that it sucks to play it that way.
I mean, it might be very difficult to play it that way. Anyway, you will hear us in the next episode. See what I did there?
Well, only if they watch it.
Yeah, but
There's no
like,
guarantee.
Ending like we started.
Look, the only way you get better is through constructive criticism.
but you need criticism to get constructive criticism, Kyle. I'm not even getting that.
I'm telling you what you're doing wrong.
What did you tell me what I did wrong?
And then you said, I honestly can't even remember what I said.
Okay,
All right, good,
let's end
good
it.
criticism.
Good.
Goodbye, bye.
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 Say bye, Kyle.
No.
Fuck you, Kyle.